Next up in our Genshin Explained series is character leveling. In Genshin, characters have multiple leveling systems, each of which can be leveled up separately, which all contribute to overall power. Some are more important than others, and often the relative importance of each can depend on the quirks and role of the character. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear mental model of what different aspects of a character exist, which should help you decide what to prioritize or how to avoid wasting your limited resources on things which don't matter. Genshin's character leveling systems can be grouped into three main categories: character, weapon, and artifacts. The importance of each category varies depending on your progression level in game as well as each character. Let's explore the character category first. First and foremost, we have the character level and Ascensions. Character level is likely to be the most familiar leveling system to you. Your character has a level, which increases when you gain experience. Every time your character's level increases, their base HP, attack, and defense stats increase. There are also some hidden benefits to increase your character's level. For example, when fighting enemies which are much higher level than your characters, you will do less damage. The Ascension aspect is likely less familiar. In Genshin, each character has a maximum level. At first, you cannot level them past level 20. Once you reach that maximum level, you can raise the maximum level by ascending a character. The highest Ascension currently in the game is Phase 6, which has a maximum character level of 90. Each Ascension has to be bought using a selection of different materials: one regional specialty item, which can be collected from the world, one enemy drop item, which can be obtained by defeating specific types of enemy, one boss fight material, and a gem, which matches the character's element, also obtained primarily by fighting bosses. Each character also gets a special Ascension bonus stat, which increases when you ascend them. For example, Xiangling gets a bonus elemental mastery increase when ascended, which makes her reactions more powerful. It can take a while to collect the materials for each Ascension, especially for the higher Ascensions, but it's well worth doing so. One thing to note is that the final Ascension is extremely expensive, and it costs roughly as much experience and mora to level a character from 80 to 90 as it does to take them from 1 to 80, and you often don't get much of a boost from making that investment. It's usually a better idea to take characters to somewhere around level 75, and leave them there until you run out of other characters who you want to level. Next up, character talents. Each character has 3 talents which can be leveled separately. They're most commonly called normal attacks, elemental skill, and elemental burst. Though PC players often refer to skill as E and burst as Q, reference to the key you press to use that talent. The normal attack talents can be thought of as how good is this character at using their weapon. It increases the strength of their normal, charged, and plunging attacks. For many characters, this is a vital talent, which will be the first thing you level, but for many more, it's actually something you rarely want to use, and as such, it's common to see the first talent left at level 1, even when everything else is maxed out. The second talent is the character's elemental skill. Each character's skill is unique and uses their elemental power to do something useful. This can range from Amber throwing her explosive bunny at enemies, through to Wanderer literally gaining the ability to fly. Skills have a cooldown which limits how often you can use them, but no other restrictions on their use. The third talent is the character's elemental burst. Similar to elemental skills, each character's burst is unique, uses their elemental power, and does something useful. Bursts tend to be more flashy and are often even more powerful than a character's skill, though there are some exceptions to that. Bursts also have a cooldown which limits how often they can be used, and they also require energy for each use, which you regenerate through fighting. Each talent has a maximum level of 10, though for the skill and burst, the max level can be increased to 13, which we'll touch on in the Constellations section. Leveling a talent costs an enemy drop item, a talent level up material obtained from specific domains, and then past level 6 it also requires a weekly boss item. For the final level, it also requires a crown item, hence the term crowning a talent, which is a very rare item available through time-limited events or through leveling regional trees. The act of maxing out a talent is called crowning a talent. You'll often hear people talk about this, since it takes a lot of investment to reach that point. The final leveling system in the character category is the Constellation system. Each character has a total of 6 available constellations, which unlock new passive abilities or other benefits unique to that character. People often refer to the constellations by saying C1, C2, and so on, with C0 referring to a character which you have obtained but not yet acquired constellations for. To unlock a constellation, you must obtain an extra copy of that character. If you'd like a run-through of all the ways to obtain characters, check out my video on that subject linked in the description. Constellations vary wildly in strength. Some are fairly underwhelming, for example, Diona's 4th constellation is fairly pointless. However, many are completely game-changing. For example, Kujosara's 6th constellation turns her from a very decent support into an absolutely brilliant one for Electro characters. As mentioned earlier, every character has a couple of constellations which increase the level of their skill and burst by 3 talent levels. These are always constellations 3 and 5. All the other constellations are unique to each character. For many other characters, each constellation is decent, but as a whole they work together to cover the character's faults. For example, Yanfei's initial problems is that her playstyle eats up a lot of stamina and she's very squishy and prone to getting knocked around. Her constellations all work towards negating those issues, and by the time she's C6, she has a number of aspects which reduce her stamina consumption plus a surprisingly strong shield which makes her very robust. The downside to constellations is that for the most part you cannot guarantee getting one. Many people have ended up spending hundreds of wishes, sometimes meaning hundreds of dollars, in the hopes of getting a C6 4-star, without getting what they want. For the most part, the best we can do is aim to wish on banners where we have a good chance of getting the constellations we want, and just make do if we don't get lucky. That's it for the character category. Next up, let's talk about weapons. Before we talk about leveling weapons, let's quickly look at the different aspects of a weapon which we need to care about. Each weapon has a base attack stat, a substat, and a passive ability. The base attack is added to your character's base attack and is used as an initial number for any damage calculations. The substat increases one specific stat, while the passive ability does something unique to each weapon. It's usually important to pick a weapon for your character which provides the substat and passive which they can make use of, though if that's not possible, you will often just give a character a powerful weapon to increase their stats even if they can't make use of the weapon's passive ability. The first weapon leveling system is weapon level and ascensions. This works the same as the character level and ascension system, with a maximum level which gets raised every time you ascend the weapon. As with the character level, the initial max level is 20, and there are 6 ascensions which eventually unlock up to weapon level 90. Weapon experience is gained by using items as experience materials. You gain some experience by using other weapons as fuel, but the majority of your weapon experience will come in the form of weapon enhancement ore items. Weapon Ascensions also require special materials to unlock. Each Weapon Ascension requires 2 different enemy drop items plus specialty Weapon Ascension material obtained from a special domain. Increasing your weapon's level will increase its base attack and its substat. Note that it will not affect the weapon's passive ability in any way. The other weapon leveling system is Weapon Refinement. Weapon Refinement is fairly similar to character constellations. To refine a weapon, you obtain another copy of the same weapon and combine the two into one. All weapons start at Refinement rank 1 and can be refined up to maximum rank 5, commonly called R1 to R5 for short. Refining a weapon increases the power of its passive ability. You can see which parts of the passive a refinement will affect by looking for the numbers highlighted in blue in the passive description. Weapon refinement can be a bit of a trade-off. The increase in power is often fairly small, so it's fairly common to keep at least a couple of spare copies of a weapon just in case you want to level a second or even a third for a new character. This tendency is even stronger for 5-star weapons. Unless you're spending lots of money, these will be very rare items, so it's unusual for people to throw extra copies of a powerful weapon away just for a small boost to their first copy. For some weapons, however, a high refinement makes a huge difference. Favonius weapons are well worth taking to R5, since their passive becomes much more reliable as they reach higher refinement. Similarly, the attack boost provided by the Thrilling Tales of Dragonslayer at R5 is very much worth it. And finally, the artifacts. Each character can equip 5 artifacts: a flower, a feather, a timepiece, a goblet, and a circlet. Artifacts have their own leveling system, which can unlock a significant amount of your character's potential. A level 1 character with powerful artifacts equipped will usually outperform a maxed out character with no artifacts. The maximum level of each artifact is determined by its rarity. A 1-star artifact maxes out at level 4, 2 stars level 8, 3 stars at level 12, 4 stars at level 16, and 5 stars at level 20. Artifact experience is gained by using items as experience materials, similar to weapon experience. In the case of artifacts, the vast majority of your experience will be provided by consuming other artifacts. There are also some artifact experience items which are occasionally available, though they're fairly rare. Artifacts have a main stat and 4 substats, and each artifact is part of a specific matching set. Let's look at how the artifact leveling system affects these. The main stat is the most important aspect of any artifact. The stats available vary depending on the artifact slot. For example, a flower will always have a flat HP main stat, while a circlet can have one of a number of different main stats, as you can see here. The artifact's main stat will increase by a set amount for every single level. Rarer artifacts have a big advantage here. Not only do they have a higher maximum level, but they also have a stronger main stat at the same level. A level 16 5-star artifact will have a stronger main stat than a level 16 4-star artifact. The substats are the second most important aspect of an artifact and are subject to an infuriating amount of randomness. When you first obtain an artifact, it will have a certain number of substats, picked at random from the available stats. Note that a substat can never match a main stat. You cannot have an EM substat on an artifact with an EM main stat. When your artifact reaches level 4, 8, 12, 16 and 20, it will obtain a substat roll. If the artifact has less than 4 substats, it will roll a new substat into the next available slot. If it has 4 substats, it will pick one of the existing 4 substats at random and increase that substat. At each of these points, when picking the initial substats or when rolling new ones, the strength of the substat is also determined by another random chance. These multiple layers of randomness often make leveling artifacts an extremely frustrating experience. You can get an artifact which looks almost perfect at level 1, but which then rolls entirely into a useless substat like flat defense, and as a result it can be fairly weak in comparison to other artifacts which had better rolls of the dice. Finally, artifact set bonuses will add to your character's strengths, but are not affected by artifact leveling whatsoever. I'll talk about artifacts and the trade-offs you'll have to make along the way in my next video, which will explore character builds in more detail. Overall, it's important to remember that resources are scarce, so it's worthwhile finding out which parts of any specific character's build are skippable, since you can save a lot that way. In some cases, it's possible to take this to quite an extreme. For example, Sucrose's primary roles are to provide crowd control and to use a 4-piece Viridescent artifact set to swirl away enemies' elemental damage resistance. As such, many players decide to only level her main character level and her equipment and leave all 3 of her talents at level 1, since they do not affect her intended purpose and simply add to her personal damage instead, saving themselves a lot of resources along the way. Genshin's characters are very diverse and often have unique caveats and considerations which can completely change the priorities for how to build them. So, as ever, the most important advice I can give you is to ask for help whenever you're unsure. Until next time.